Hello, everyone, and welcome to my final journal report. The purpose of this video is to go over a few main things, the first of which is how my attitude for this class kind of changed, how it was initially, and then how it was towards the end of the course, and why that change occurred. The second part that we'll address is something that Brother Tuckett wanted us to kind of talk about, which is metacognition, and we will go into that a little bit. And the third is just my final thoughts on the course, and then just to kind of wrap everything up. So to begin, I was initially fairly confident about the course. I had taken other programming classes and done okay in them. It still definitely wasn't my thing by any means. But I was, pretty confident that I'd still be able to figure it out. I was also a little bit nervous about the course, and I will explain why. As I read through the syllabus, I quickly saw that the course wasn't laid out like a traditional course. I wasn't just going to be able to memorize a whole bunch of stuff and then regurgitate it for a test and then call it, and then quickly forget it after that. I was actually going to have to work in a group, show my group that I was there for a reason, do a good job, and then have something to show for it at the end. So it was a little daunting in that aspect. So to kind of show how I was feeling initially about the course, I'm going to read you a small bit from my first journal entry for the class. It says, "I'm feeling slightly daunted by this course and the outcomes it wants me to achieve. I struggled to understand the material in the first object-oriented class, and now it feels like this will be more of the same. I'm excited at the prospect of finally getting a grasp on programming, but also scared I might completely fail." As I read that, I guess that's normal. I was probably feeling the beginning of the semester jitters or whatever you'd want to call it. And so it was just interesting that I was already worried that I was going to fail. And I hope that one of the main things I've learned is that I shouldn't have that attitude in the beginning if I have no idea what I'm even getting myself into. That being said, as I was going through all of my journal entries, I noticed an interesting change, and I got a lot more confident about the class. And it happened after, it was a part of my journal that I wrote after our second group meeting, and I want to read that part to you as well. It says, "We had our second group meeting tonight and it went very well. I wasn't able to attend the first one, so I didn't really know what to expect. We did the meeting through Hangouts and had a good discussion. I presented on Hibernate and how it can be implemented into a Java project. It was interesting and very unusual. This week, I'm going to create a test Java program and try to use Hibernate to connect to a database via SQL." And that's just interesting to me that, 2 weeks before that, I was saying I might fail the class. And then right after I actually participated in my first group meeting, I was thinking, hey, I'm gonna, crank out a Java program. I'm gonna try to use Hibernate, which I had never even learned what that was until that week. I'm gonna try to get to connect to a database. And I think the reason that I had the change, and this kind of goes into the second point a little bit, the metacognition and trying to understand how I learn, is I really, I don't think participate's the right word. I respond really well to strength in numbers. When I'm in a group, I'm generally more positive because I realize I don't have to do all the work myself. I realize that I may have some flaws, but my group members, more than likely someone in the group where that was a flaw in me, they may have a strength. And I don't have to have all the knowledge myself. Going into that a little further, being in a group allowed me to focus on what I needed to do and to get work done. It also allowed me to stay busy. Let's see here, stay busy. And then it also made me feel a lot more confident. And I think the reason for that was, each time that we met as a group, we were required to have learned a programming principle and share on that. And I think that was a really effective way to do it. And I responded to it really well because it gave me, I knew I was going to be presenting it for my fellow classmates, my fellow associates. And so I put a great deal of time and effort into those to try to learn them and to try to understand them. And then my group was really good at afterwards, if I had maybe said something incorrectly or they had something that they could add to it, they always really helped me learn from my mistakes, and they helped me grow in the programming principles that I had taught. And from a metacognitive standpoint, I respond really well to that, and I learn really well from that. And the final point on the group and why I think that helped me so much is I have always responded really well to leadership. I've always been very good at doing what I'm told, and in a lot of classes, it isn't always apparent. There isn't always a leader that kind of comes out. And so I've also really tried to put myself into those type of leadership positions as well. And in this particular group, there were a couple students that definitely kind of immediately out of the gate kind of distinguished themselves as the leaders of the group almost. And that was fine with me. That didn't bother me at all, because there were plenty of opportunities when we had to, create our community or, schedule when we were going to meet and things like that. And I was able to take some initiative and do those things. And so the group the leaders of the group did not have to worry about them so much. And so I respond really well to the leadership styles like that. And then I also respond really well at taking initiative and getting things done, and working in a group environment like we did gave me the opportunity to do both of those things. And so really, it was almost a perfect environment for me to learn and to grow. We're kind of reaching the end of my final journal report now. And so I'll just give you my final thoughts. When I started the course, I wasn't very open to the idea of taking a programming course that, as I read in the syllabus, clearly stated was not a programming course. And I remember being very confused by that, thinking, well, if it's a programming class, why am I not going to be doing a lot of programming? And I remember reading one of the comments that Brother Tuckett wrote, and he said, this is not a programming course, but you're still going to write a lot of code. And now being at the end of the class, we wrote a lot of example programs, personally and as a group. But at the same time, now being at the end of the course, I completely understand how it's not a programming course. It was really a lot more designed to teach us how to work into groups, how to communicate in groups, manage a project, even though we wouldn't be able to meet in person, which was fairly difficult. And those were the things that I'll really take away from this. It was great to learn about Hibernate, MySQL, HTTP, URL, all those great topics that we talked about. That was great. But I think the bigger picture was how to manage ourselves in a group environment like this and actually be able to produce something at the end that we could show, which we were able to do. And so I do think it was successful in that regard. Let's see, is there anything else I wanted to touch on? Yeah, so back to kind of the metacognitive part of this. I don't learn nearly as well when I'm placed in a traditional class environment. That is, memorizing stuff and then just shooting it back out on the test, because I forget it very quickly after that. And this class, and the way it was designed, it really encouraged me to think outside the box. Being told, hey, there's not an actual textbook for this class, but you need to learn how JUnit works or JSON works this week. I had to really think outside the box, because Google, simply Googling it just didn't work. I had to find some people that had programming experience and talk to them. I had to, go, take numbers of hours and go through and actually do tutorials on these things so I could understand them. And just having to think outside the box like that and do a lot of the stuff myself instead of relying on the fact that I was just had to simply memorize things was really good for me, and it really taught me a lot. And I hope that this class continues to be exactly like this. I understand that people learn in different ways, but for me personally, this was the best way it could have been. Let's see. Finally, this is what I'll end on. I'm glad that the course was designed this way, because every time in my personal life and in my work life, when I've had to deal with a problem or a project, it has not been, hey, we need you to memorize some information and then, you know, go regurgitate it. Like, I understand that every once in a while you might run into a scenario like that, but more often than not, it's, hey, we got a problem. We don't really know how to fix it, so come up with some ideas. And again, I appreciate this class a lot, because it taught a lot of skills, you know, to be able to learn by myself, be able to think outside the box and come up with ideas and things like that. And, you know, as you know, I'm married. I'm not a real traditional student. I've been married for about 3 years now. Like, I have a house, I have a couple cars, and I've never lived on campus or anything like that. And so just being in a little bit of a different stage of life than most students, I don't know, but it seems like where I'm at right now in life, everything's kind of tossed upside down. Like, nothing ever goes to plan at all. We're constantly having to just, you know, go back to the drawing board and figure things out again. And so anytime that I take a class that requires me to think like that, I really do appreciate it. Let's see here. That's really about it. I mean, the most difficult part of the course was managing myself in a group of people that I could never meet with face to face. And I've taken a project management class where we talked about the different forms of communication and, you know, how well those work and what it's like, you know, the power of communication, like talking to somebody on the phone versus, you know, actually like doing a video chat with them and being able to see their facial expressions and things like that. And so I'm glad that we were able to do it, so we could at least do it over video chat and get to see each other's faces and kind of, you know, see facial expressions and hear the difference in voices and stuff. But at the same time, it would have been so nice to meet with my group just even one time, just all together. But I realized that that wasn't possible. And even in, you know, if we decide to go into anything like software development or, you know, things like that, there's going to be a lot of times where you can't meet in person. There's going to be a lot of video chats. And you know, even my last job interview I had, they did the entire thing over video chat because they're based out of Texas. And so again, I'm just really grateful that I was able to take the class. I'm grateful for the way it was structured. I'm grateful for my group for being supportive and helping me out. And then finally, I'm especially grateful for Brother Tuckett, because I definitely expressed my concerns initially in the class and said I was worried that I wasn't going to pass it and things like that. And I was considering dropping it. And Brother Tuckett was just really supportive and said, hey, you know, I can't really stop you from doing that, but I'm here for you. So let me know if there's anything I can help you out with. And he was more than willing to look at some of my code and tell me some things I could improve on, things I could do better. So I appreciate that as well. So that is my final journal report. Again, I'm just grateful I was able to take the course. Thanks for watching.